so far there's 20 people in the group, and they're from the UK and Ireland, and people are optimistic and enthusiastic, but they're not putting anything up into the group. So that's going to be my next struggle. So I'm hoping that like maybe this time next month that there's actually interaction and conversation happening in that group that's of value. So that's what I'm trying to work on, one thing at the moment.
That's a nice achievable goal.
Yes.
Or like, it sounds achievable. Well, I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
Facebook groups is just my area of expertise. So I'm like, that's easy.
Yeah. It's easy for me to do stuff. Motivating others is the trick.
Okay, yeah.
Well, it's my name is Stefania. It's the first goals meeting that I attend, so I'm a bit disconnected probably from everybody else's journey. I'm really interested in the positive psychology because I did an evening class on positive psychology in the People's College. It's just finished a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was brilliant. Goal setting was one class, so one evening. I had a goal was to look for another job, but I got one. So.
Hey!
My second goal would be to be able to stick onto something. So like it's not even time, managing time. It's to be able to do something on daily to achieve a goal. I'm trying to do an Excel class online. It's really achievable, but some days I just don't do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why do I not do it? I like it. It's not that I don't like it.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to understand the working behind that. Really. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Alison, and so my goal is just to boost self-confidence and overall happiness. So taking baby steps to achieve that.
Yes.
Taking huge steps. You've done so much, I think.
Yeah. So I find these monthly sessions really good.
Yeah.
Kind of keeps focus.
So I'm Anne-Marie, and this is my second one of these cult meetings. I think my first one was back in February, so it's been a while. But at the time, my goal was kind of to just start getting up earlier because I live like 10 minutes walk from work, so I was in such a bad routine because I could just get up at 8:45, like, and just go to work, and it'd be grand and on time. But it meant that I was kind of starting my work day just kind of already in kind of a stressed kind of mode because I kind of eat my breakfast in work, so it just meant I was just going straight to work with no in between, like for me at all. So so it's actually been going pretty well. Like I've been getting up earlier. I still kind of, it's not great either. Like I kind of have little slips, but it's definitely been a lot better. I kind of get up at least at 8, which is
cool.
better.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Habit change is a real challenge.
Yeah.
My name is Susan. I suppose my goal at 7 years was also to find a job. I finally did.
Yay!
And then I actually really wanted to read more. So that's kind of the challenge I've been setting myself. Like every month, kind of read 3, like by just using Audible or just actually reading. So I'm kind of able to do that.
Cool.
Yes, keep going.
Nice one.
My name is Helen. I only started on the golf program about 4 weeks ago, so only halfway through the first month. But the reason I did it was because I have a 16-year-old daughter, and it's just kind of giving myself back some time and trying to find who I am.
Cool.
So that's my goal.
And figures. Hi, my name is Rolka. This is my second goals meeting. I joined the first one in January and then moved and traveled and whatnot. So my goal for this year, the general one, was to get to know myself a little better and to kind of set boundaries and focus on myself instead of others. Which sounds selfish and I'm still struggling with that, but I'm getting there. And trickle down into work and personal life too. So after a break of 4 months, again.
You did the first one so enthusiastically. I feel like it counts for about 3. So. You did. You were so into it.
Thanks very much.
Hey everyone, I'm Kate. I think this is my month number 5, but when I went to 3 sessions, I think kind of race my way.
But also, did 2 workbooks in her first session.
My original goal was to get back to studying and to do things like I was commuting every day from Wexford, so I moved up, I got that done. But now I'm in a really unhappy work situation. So my new goal is to get a new job, and I'm really liking all this happy new job.
Yeah.
So I'm Aoife. I think this is my third or fourth. I don't think I only missed one, but yeah. So I was teaching yoga on the side, or starting to teach yoga on the side. That's going really well. But then otherwise, I think GirlCrew in general has been really helpful over the last few months. I've actually met some really, really good people. Like, 'cause I came home after 3 years away in Ireland in October, so I've met so many good people. I actually nearly have too much stuff going on social media. Like,
Oh yeah, when you said you're actually really busy, it's our fault.
Yeah, it's really great. Like, and then this is the first weekend, which is actually like okay, I can't do anything this weekend, and it's been really, really good. And so, I'm in a job that's grand, and I like it, and it's fine. But I also got accepted into a master's this week. I just went on Friday.
Oh, cool.
So, but I don't know what to do about.
Was that the one you said you had just heard about it and you were applying to it?
I didn't get into that one.
Okay.
No, I didn't get into that
But
one.
a different cool one.
Oh yeah. No, well it's still pretty good, but it's in Galway, and I'd have to like uproot myself again and then move, and then I don't know if I want to do that. And then I also have an idea for business, but I think it will be a few years before I'll be in a position to start it. But I'm going to start working on that as well.
Cool.
So.
Lots.
Yeah, I've got a lot. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
A bit much there.
Very good.
Yeah.
I'm Elva. My goal was just do a small meditation every day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I can never do it every day. It's the religion I am. So it's like there's one prayer you're supposed to say every day, and I don't say it. So I'm definitely going to Baha'i hell if I don't sort it out. So I invented a whole goals program to stick to.
You're all recruited to Elva's personal plan.
Yeah, like, I'm going to learn from everybody else's successes and failures until I just nail it.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Cool.
Great. So you've probably named all one or two things that you're working on, and yet you have a whole other aspect of all your lives that you're taking care of. Career stuff, relationship stuff, family stuff, shopping, cleaning, cooking, showing up on time to work, being here. So there's a huge amount that's already happened, it's already going on, and we have a tendency to discount all of that.
Yeah.
We have a real strong natural bias to look at the 2 or 3% that we don't yet have. And that's natural, that's part of the human condition. And that's because of our evolutionary kind of biology and stuff. So it's something that we tend to really overlook all of what we're already doing and give ourselves credit for it. Because we just say, well, that's done. So we can just discount that because paying attention to that doesn't sort of save my life somehow. So it can be helpful to just start to catalogue all the things that we actually do and how good we are at doing them and how much expertise we already have. But yeah, because it's already a lot, isn't it? Yeah. So I thought what we might do is do a little, I have this 1-page sheet which kind of identifies all these different aspects of components of goals, pursuing goals and achieving them. I thought I would give one to each person, and I would just give a brief summary of what each of them are, like maybe 1 or 2 sentences. You can take notes, and you can maybe identify which ones of these you feel you have or you don't have, because they're not all essential, but having enough of them can be really, really helpful. So,
cool. Yay, exercise.
So you'll see there's 3 headings here. There's destination, identity, willpower management, and way power. These are the 3 broad elements of what's involved in either creating a goal or following through it and making sure it happens. Each of these headings have a bunch of components, and some of these components could be under any one of these headings. They could be about destination, identity, willpower, or way power. But basically what destination identity is the idea of having some clear idea or vision of what you want to be the case, what you want to be kind of the reality. Willpower management is the idea of maintaining and managing the energy to get us there and to be able to overcome or sidestep or manage the obstacles that kind of get in our way, rob our attention, kind of trick us in some way to not follow through. And then way power is the idea of what's the actual channel, what's the pathway to get there. And there are three different distinct things. You could have all three, and that would be great. If you have two of these three, you're kind of going to be missing some key element. And if you have one of the three, you're going to be missing two key elements. And if none of the three, no. Best of luck.
One of the three of each of the like categories, or one of the three?
One of these three, either destination, identity, willpower management, or way power.
Oh, you need one.
You need to have
Of
all three.
You need to have
You need
all
to have
three.
elements of all three to be able to set a goal,
Yeah.
set out to achieve that goal, and manage the energy to get to that goal.
Okay. Do most people?
No.
Yeah. So it's like, what if we all realize we don't have all three elements of all three, and then everybody just leaves for the rest of the talk? Like, there's no point even trying.
No, that's not the case at all. That's not the case at all.
Okay, cool.
The thing is, we've probably all achieved goals without having all of these things in place anyway. So this is about bringing in new little things and tips and techniques that might just actually increase our performance. So I'm just going to go through this idea of destination identity first. So this is the idea of being able to identify what the goal might be. And helpful things involved in that are having a vision statement. Every company we know that's any good has a vision statement. They have an idea about what they want to make better in the world or what problem they want to solve in the world. And having one of those can really help start to clarify what our goal might be and why that goal might be particularly important to us. So that why element can be very stimulating when things go wrong. A mission statement really comes out of our vision and identifies exactly what do we do about that vision. So if someone says, I want the world to be happier, that might be their vision statement. Their mission statement might be, I tell jokes every day to make the world a happier place. So they have a very good vision and mission statement that they can act on and reflect on regularly. Every company has these two things. Absolutely core to just about every company that performs. Having an objective is pretty good. What it would look like if those things came true. Not essential, but can be very helpful to be able to refer to as if we were realizing our vision and mission, what might be the case.
And to measure whether you did it or not.
Yes,
or
and
no,
that comes a little bit later, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions or comments so far about those three, the vision statement, mission statement, and an objective?
Which comes first? Because I always thought that objective comes first. Like, I don't know, I want to get a degree.
Yeah.
And then, how am I going to do it? And what is going to look like when I get it? You know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And sort of naturally, you're already bringing in a vision statement there. You're saying what it will look like when I get one.
yeah. You kind of need to see the light at the end of the tunnel, you know? Like,
so they're not entirely separate from each other.
yeah.
They kind of do mix in quite well. But the clearer our vision statement is and mission statement is, the more fuel we'll have in our tank to follow through on a goal when it gets difficult. The more invested we'll be in that goal.
Thank you.
The next thing is the goal type. To have some sort of idea about what type of goal it is we're trying to perform. So there's intrinsic goals and extrinsic. Intrinsic in that we do it because we might love something, or we do it because it reflects our values, or extrinsic in that we do it because it will get us something, a house, money, love and adoration from others, safety, something like that. So these are two different types of.
So one is a goal for. One is a goal to like satisfy our belief.
Yeah.
About ourselves or the world.
Yeah.
And the other is to satisfy like
material needs. Yeah. So intrinsic is about realizing something about yourself.
Yeah.
And the extrinsic is things like getting things from other people.
Yeah.
Companies, jobs, things like that.
Yeah. What's an example of an intrinsic one? Just.
You might have a goal to.
It could be a hobby.
It could be, but it's probably something about your values. So it might be that your goal is to get a job that has a positive impact on people in some way.
Or use less plastic or something.
An extrinsic goal might be, I want to get the job that gives me the most money.
Okay.
So one is about giving something of yourself out to the world, the other is what you can get.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
They're not good or bad, there's no moral aspect to it, but it can be helpful to identify
which type it is.
Which type. And often these people find that their intrinsic goal and their extrinsic goal are in clash with each other. So someone wants to make a lot of money, but they end up working for a company that is a weapons dealer.
Yeah.
And so they find, this is really in contrast to my value system, and they find then it jarring, and they have to look then at, okay, what are they doing? How are they doing? The second type of goal here is identifying if your goal is about performance or achievement. Athletes really deal in these types of goals a lot. So an athlete will say, I want to win the Boston Marathon in 3 years' time. That's their achievement goal. But their performance goal is, well, today I'm going to run 6 miles, or I'm going to run at this pace. And they might be doing performance goals for 3 years before they ever set out to win a race. And highly trained athletes are very clear about the difference between their performance goal and their achievement goal.
Yeah.
Most of us go out all the time just trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Straight away, before we've learned anything, before we figured out what our capacity is, we just say, okay, I'm gonna achieve. A lot of people at work, in the work I work in, they come in and they're in their first 6 months of work, and they have decided that their goal is to get a promotion and have a €100,000 salary by the end of their first year.
Wow.
So they have this massive achievement goal, which is definitely not going to happen, no matter how good they are.
Yeah.
Because they have to wait a number of years before they're going to get that promotion.
Yeah.
And then they get this real clash. They say, well, I'm performing really, 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 really well, but I'm not achieving. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm no good. Maybe the company is no good. And they get distressed and they cause disruption or leave.
When the actual process in the workplace would prevent that being possible.
Just the reality.
Okay.
Just reality doesn't conform to their what they want to achieve.
Okay.
So knowing a difference between performance and achievement is good. A lot of the times also in companies, people set out with a performance goal. They say, we're just going to do this, thinking it will realize their mission, but it never does. So they say, we want to make shoes. So they make loads and loads and loads of shoes, but their real goal is to make money, but they end up making shoes.
Okay.
So they have a performance goal and an achievement goal mixed up.
Yeah.
So paying a little bit of attention to those two things can be really helpful. And the third type of goal is this idea of preventing things or promoting things. Preventing things are, I better do this or I'm going to lose my job. I better knuckle down and get 3 hours of study done every day this week or I won't pass the exam. That's really good for narrowing your focus, making you stressed, and getting you into a kind of a semi-fight or flight mode to get something done. A promotion goal is about growth, getting more, achieving more, fulfilling something, and about growth in some way. The biggest challenge in that area with the goal type is the performance versus achievement. This is what one finds consistently is a problem for people or something they overlook.
A problem in that, because it sounds like you have to do both. Like it sounds to me like you can't do the achievement without focusing on performance. But what is that how it manifests as a challenge, that people aren't thinking about the performance part, or they aren't thinking about what they don't know? I'm not sure.
Well, for example, someone says that they might want to earn they might want a really high paying, earning job, and they decide that they like cafes, so they'll open a cafe.
Okay.
So they end up doing a performance thing, but without having identified what they want to achieve. So they end up getting really, really busy with something, but it's completely contrary to what they really, really want.
Goal. Yeah. Okay.
That's really, really, really common.
Yeah.
But they do link one into the other. Like, you're not going to achieve anything if you don't have some things that you do.
Yeah.
But having them linked up to each other is
Also important.
is helpful.
Yeah. Does anyone know that episode of South Park with the gnomes, the underpants gnomes? Do you know that episode of South Park? So the underpants gnomes are like robbing everyone's underpants. And they're like, they eventually like question the gnomes on why they're doing this, and the gnomes have been going around telling everyone like it's because they want to rule the world or be really rich or something.
Yeah.
And then they get a chalkboard or like a blackboard to explain it to people, and they go, phase 1, collect underpants. Phase 2, phase 3, profit. That's all they have. They go to phase 2. That's what reminds me of this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a really good analogy. Yeah. I must watch that episode.
Yeah, you can use it then.
So then, having a strategy, you know, how that goal is going to be achieved. Is it going to be reading a certain number of hours per day? Is it going to be talking to a certain number of people? Is it going to be getting a coach? Strategies kind of tend to follow very obviously once we've got the few top ideas in place. Then the actions break down to like the micro stuff. And then the last thing is having some way to measure it and make the measurement really visible. So there's lots of models of measurement. One I have listed there is this idea of SMART goals. This acronym for SMART, it's actually a measurement system, not a goal management system, really. So people mix that up as well. Because that's SMART, which is that your goal should be specific, it should be measurable, it should be achievable, it should be results-oriented rather than performance-oriented, and it should be in some way time-bound. That's actually a metric for measuring your actions, not actually anything to do with goals.
Okay, yeah.
Because it doesn't say what your vision is, what your mission is, what your objective is. So it's really only a metric for
measuring how it's going.
Yes.
When all the other stuff is worked out.
Exactly. There are loads of.
What's Tusker?
Yeah, there's about. I wrote that in and completely forgot about it. I remember the acronym, but not what it stands for.
We just Google that one.
Yeah, it's like outcomes, knowledge, skills, something. You know, what you're going to use for this stuff.
And that's for measuring actions as well.
Yeah.
Another one.
So that's the idea of some of the things you need to have a destination in mind and clear, and how you're going to get there. Any thoughts?
Not really.
Anything new there?
Performance.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I feel like it would be cool at the next one to actually write down vision statements and mission statements maybe as well. Or as homework for this one either.
Yeah.
But we didn't do anything like that. We wrote down the goal and like the steps to get there, and we did reflect on like what skills we have sort of to help us get there maybe, or why we want to do things. But I feel like we didn't really do that, like a mission statement and a vision statement, which would probably be really good. We just went straight to objective.
Yeah.
Like, really, yeah, that'd be cool.
So then we'll move on to the idea of willpower management. So this is the fuel, you know, where you're going to get the fuel from and what the fuel is to be able to get to that destination. There are lots of different techniques to manage your energy levels, and I've really just listed some of the techniques we would use from goal setting ideas and theory. One is this idea of WHOOP. Have you come across this? It was in a previous session. So this WHOOP, really, really, really good. I can't recommend this highly enough. This is a married couple came up with this concept, and they're both, I think, researchers in like behavioral economics and psychology, and they were investigating if positive thinking alone could help people. And it turns out that positive thinking on its own actually makes you perform worse. It makes you date fewer people, have less happy relationships, achieve less in your career. So positive thinking on its own actually has a satisfying but not a motivating effect. So this couple were researching this, and they came up with this concept that if you could visualize a positive future, but then also have an intention plan, you would be much more effective than having just a positive vision on its own or an intention plan on its own. And this was really well studied. And this lady, Oettingen is her name, the author, she wrote a book called Rethinking Positive Thinking with her husband. And they've boiled it down basically to this idea of WOOP. And WOOP stands for wish, outcome, obstacle, and plan. This is really good for managing willpower. So this doesn't replace the destination stuff, but it's a complement to this idea of your destination. So this is really good for managing obstacles in particular. So the idea is that you are able to really, in a very short time, reflect on what your vision is, which is the wish, refresh what the outcome of that vision would be. I'd be really happy if I got this job, all my friends would like me more, whatever it might be. And that's very flippant, but it's actually something of value. And then we'd be able to identify quickly the internal obstacles to that, and then have a plan. And
is the plan to overcome obstacles or to achieve the wish?
The plan is
both.
The plan is only to manage the obstacles.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh,
The plan
cool.
is only to manage the obstacles. So it might be that if I, and the plan also has two parts, two really simple parts. There's if, ... then. So if I feel like a cigarette, then I will have a coffee. If I feel like a cigarette, then I will stand up and go up the stairs. If I feel like snapping at my partner, then I will have a glass of water. And it's a way of redirecting that urge and managing willpower in an interesting way. And it's really, really, really effective. Really effective for limiting the impact of obstacles, sidestepping them and stepping over them in just about any kind of behavior change you want. Getting up in the morning, changing your diet, changing how you respond to bosses, breaking any kind of habits and managing them. Because if we resist an urge for long enough, eventually we give in. Willpower is this finite kind of fuel, which if you resist it for long enough, it just drains and drains and drains and drains. It gets exhausted and then you give in. It's why they put all the things they really want you to buy in the supermarket right at the very end of your route. They actually want you to drain your willpower over the course of the day, over the course of your time around the supermarket, so you finally give in, you have no willpower left, and you buy all that stuff at the most expensive markup at the till. People used to think it was because of kids would be bothering the children. It's actually not because kids will bother the parents, it's because the parents will have drained their willpower by resisting all the things they wanted through the rest of the supermarket. And then it's like, oh, well, it's only €1, as opposed to the cake, which is $6.50 back in the fridge. And that's designed in that way. Nice. You've heard of this, the marshmallow test?
Yeah.
The marshmallow test where you put a marshmallow in front of a child and you say, if you wait 5 minutes, then you can have 2. And this is really highly predictive of kids who have good willpower and bad willpower over the course of their entire lifetime. The kids who wait are shown to have really strong willpower, but they do it in interesting ways. They manage their willpower by turning away. They limit their exposure to the temptation. They'll turn away, they'll look at something else, they'll turn their back to the marshmallow.
They have a strategy.
Yeah, they don't sit there and visualize how nice it's going to be. They block it out and turn their attention somewhere completely else. They use this rule automatically. If I get tempted, then I will distract myself from that temptation. And another interesting thing about willpower, just on this topic, is if you're having a struggle with resisting something or doing something, you can actually increase your willpower by doing something entirely different. So if you want to cut down on the amount of coffee that you drink, if you say, well, I'm going to pay attention to my posture throughout the day you actually build your willpower resource, and it makes you more skilled at resisting that thing you're trying to resist. It's really strange, but it works.
By just trying to achieve something that's more achievable for you, or
something that you're not tempted by.
Yeah.
If you think of willpower as a muscle.
Yeah.
So if you're building your willpower by doing something that doesn't tempt you,
yeah,
then when it comes to deal with something that tempts you, you're actually much, much stronger.
Okay.
You have a much greater strength in resisting that behavior.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's a little trick. And particularly paying attention to your posture seems to be one of the things that really works. Yeah. Another thing in willpower management that most of us don't pay much attention to is the idea of just mood and emotion management. By lifting our mood and lifting the kind of positive endorphins and serotonin and dopamine we have in our brain makes us much more able to pursue and achieve goals, much less likely to give in on them, and much more resilient to being able to re-engage them if we have had what we call a relapse or a setback in your kind of goal pursuit. One of the particularly important things in this mood management is the idea of flow. So this is doing activities and having experiences where you lose a sense of time and you lose a sense of yourself. Usually those are activities that are highly challenging, but you have a high skill at. So they're usually hobbies, and often they're hobbies we've done as kids. Sports, art, things like that.
Eating is very popular now.
Yeah.
Eating?
Eating.
Oh, sorry. Eating.
Because it's like a focused activity. You see the immediate results of what you're doing. It's and it can be a high challenge and high skill. You could do it with anything. You could do it with ironing your clothes or washing dishes. You could do it with any activity at all, but the ones that are highly challenging and require high skill, to make sure that you do a little bit of that every week at least. It's very important. We're losing this in the Western world, and it's really paying the price.
Is that for our mood overall, for our mood and emotions overall?
Yeah.
Like we need to do that a little bit every week.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, I find I can get into that kind of flow in certain tasks I do in work sometimes. It's not bad getting that from work.
No.
That's what I was just about to ask, like, does work count or is that excluded?
That's the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything that you can do. Yeah. The professor who came up with this is a Hungarian guy who lives and works in the US, and he was looking at like high performance athletes and people like that, but he was also curious, can people who are working in really mundane jobs on assembly lines, can they also get into a state of flow in their work? And it turns out that they can, and the way they can do it is either try to work at a really, really fast pace for a burst of 15 or 20 minutes, or to do something at their highest quality they possibly can for 15 or 20 minutes. And it triggers that flow state in a way that just going through the motions doesn't.
Okay.
Now,
cool.
If you're an extreme sports downhill skier, you're going to get that because it just puts you into that state of flow if you're good at it. But anything that has a high level of skill and a high level of challenge.
And you can kind of create a high level of skill and challenge by wanting to do almost anything at a high standard, then I imagine.
Yeah,
if you can do it in the assembly line, same thing maybe with ironing or something, that you're trying really intentionally to do it really perfectly.
You're doing it at the best of your ability to the limit of your skill.
Yeah.
And so you're really meeting that there.
Which for me is still not very good ironing. The best of my ability and the level of my skill.
But this is really important. It's one of the 5 pillars of things that discriminate really happy, flourishing people from unhappy, languishing people, is this concept of flow.
Yeah, I think that's like something that all kids still have naturally. They don't, you kind of lose it as you get older, because like a child will, if they're building their Lego, they will be engrossed in it. So.
Even though it's not on the plan and it's not to do with goals, what are the other 4 pillars? Or is that too big a question?
Oh no, it's really simple. The acronym is PERMA. P stands for positive emotion. The E stands for engagement, which is the same as flow, but PERMA doesn't work so well. So PERMA, P for positive emotion, E for engagement, R is for relationships.
That you have some or that you have good ones?
You have good ones.
Way harder.
Mm-hmm.
The R is R for relation. M is for meaning, and the A is for a sense of accomplishment. And actually, this goals program would really fall into the area of accomplishment. It's an accomplishment program. The idea that we've achieved things in the past and we're pursuing things for the future is really, really a key aspect. So yeah, that's the
Irma, the pillars. Thanks.
The other thing down below that is this idea of motivation interviewing. So below mood and emotion management is this idea of motivation interviewing. So this is it's used a lot in trying to stimulate behavior change in people who have substance abuse in particular, but it's used for anything and everything if you want to change. It's really, really powerful, and it's the idea of looking at, okay, what are the costs and benefits of staying the same versus the costs and benefits of change? And being able to contrast now and then can be a very, very valuable way of revisiting our goals when we might be lacking a little bit or when we're trying to get motivation. Normally it's done between a coach and a coachee or a therapist and a client, but we can do it on ourselves by just having a... It doesn't matter how good your to-do list or how full your calendar list is or how well your priorities are mapped out. If your own personal energy is crashed, you may scrap all the rest. Goals won't happen. Nothing will be achieved, and you'll have to go on sick leave or just take a break from your goals and things like that. There's a very
could you just stay the same? Could you just choose to, say if you don't have a choice, because there are people with, I guess, like high stress jobs or really intense jobs or really intense things going on within their relationships or like personal lives. Would you then is it better to go, I'm not going to try achieve a goal, or should your goal be to try and get unburned out? If you're burned out, can you continue on the same and just not achieve something new? Or do you need to, must you stop and recover from the energy?
So stop starting and start finishing.
Yeah.
Yeah?
You probably won't be very effective. You'll be pretty knackered.
Okay. Because people keep doing the same jobs, I think, even when they're burned out. I think you can keep doing the same things. I think but maybe I have that wrong. Maybe you're not. Maybe your energy is fine if you're still able to do the same things.
I think you're probably able to show up at work.
Yeah.
And you're able to be physically there.
Yeah.
Probably not that productive. There's a bit of presenteeism there. You'd like to take a few more sick days. And then when you get home, your relationships, your hobbies, your pastimes are going to be there's nothing going to be coming from that.
Okay.
And that tends
Something will
to
suffer.
Yeah. And then eventually you go on Christmas holidays and you just get sick.
Yeah.
You'll be sick for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We're at a stage now where we're not doing any meditation much. We're not doing prayer, and we're on all the time, and that has a huge effect on energy levels. So we're increasing our demands for performance, but we're not increasing our maintenance. And anybody who wants to perform really highly increases their maintenance.
Okay.
We increase it.
Yeah.
You can take a Formula One car or a Ford Focus and tear it around for 40,000 miles before you need to do anything with it. But you take a Formula One car out and it only gets around 4 or 6 times before you have to change everything on it because the performance demand is so much higher. The top guys in Google spend about 12 hours a week on dedicated self-care. Now they can afford to do it, but that may also be how they got to be there in the first place. They prioritize that.
Yeah.
And it could be
within work hours or outside of work hours?
Within work hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also 12 hours of work time.
Yeah. Now, of course, that's not...
Are they hiring?
Always. Always. But it's a huge area, this idea of energy management. There's a whole Harvard Business Review volume dedicated just to energy management, the idea of being a crisis. And there's a very good questionnaire, which we might put up at some point or share out.
Yeah.
Reflecting on your own physical, emotional, spiritual energy inputs and outputs.
continue to
If
struggle.
you think of mindfulness programs, so the 8-week mindfulness program that is run from Oxford and from Massachusetts University, the dose is 12 minutes a day. And that 12 minutes a day over 8 weeks will reclaim 10 IQ points.
What?
What are these programs?
Mindfulness-based cognitive therapy or mindfulness-based stress reduction. They've over 8 weeks of 12 minutes a day. You generate grey brain matter, become less emotionally reactive, improves your immune system, makes your DNA less worn out.
Where do you find that? Is it just on the website or on the Oxford website?
Oxford have a really good app called MBCT, Mindfulness-Based Cognitive Therapy. And there's one also called Palouse Mindfulness, Palouse. They have the full 8-week Massachusetts Hospital mindfulness program online. All the meditations, all the readings, all the videos for free.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So that's the kind of self-care we're talking about. And that could be 6 minutes at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day. It could be just disengaging from something that you're doing, like a walk, just to be a bit more present for a few minutes. The impact on the fight or flight system in the brain and the adrenal glands and stuff is incredible over 8 weeks. It protects your. It just is astonishing when you look at the kind of impacts even on how the chromosomes and the DNA actually are protected over time because they age, with stress. And by stepping out of stress states, you actually protect their DNA and become less likely to reproduce cancer cells. Stunning stuff. There's a lady called Blackwell, I think it was, who won the Nobel Prize for discovering this in genetics. Just this level of mindfulness and stopping mind wandering for a few minutes a day had this impact. So energy management doesn't have to be a complete radical revolution in your life, but a few minutes of increase in investment every day really pay dividends.
How do you know the difference between, this is something I always struggle with, how do you know the difference between when you're meditating or when you just spaced out? Because because I feel like this, I could just eyes glazed over, I could be a million miles away, but it's not necessarily meditating. It's not
that's not meditating, and that's not mindfulness. But it's not bad either.
Yeah.
But the distinction is between meditating and mind wandering.
Yeah.
And there's 3 states really. There's daydreaming, which is like nice ideas, releases pleasure hormones. It's good for you. There's mind wandering, which is when the attention will drift to thoughts, concerns, plans, problems, risks, threats, dangers. And that will release stress hormones and just get us into a difficult state. And then there's mindfulness. And mindfulness is very specific. It's paying attention on purpose, in the present, non-judgmental. And anything that doesn't have those 4 elements isn't really practicing mindfulness.
So present.
It's paying attention on purpose, in the present, non-judgmental. Those are these things we're doing naturally and automatically all the time anyway. So it's not like, okay, I don't have any of this. I have to do all this now from tomorrow or I won't get anywhere. These things are already all happening. But by just putting a label on them, we can become a bit more skilled and, okay, I can invest a little bit more in this or identify that we already have these things to develop. And I think it's really helpful to identify that you're doing it, you're putting it into practice all the time anyway.
Yeah.
Like all of those things are already happening. We're regulating ourselves all the time. And these are just things that have been observed in people. These weren't inventions. So these have all just been identified that people who do one of these, or 1 or 2 of these things a little bit more, that people who do it a little bit less, find themselves in just that little bit percent more resourced. And then the 3rd section then, way power, is kind of a bit more sort of obvious that we know, like how do we actually achieve our goal? What are opportunities at work? Or what resources we have to draw on interpersonally and in our groups and our societies? Accompaniment is one of the key things here, and of course being part of the GirlCrew program is really important for that. One thing in this way power section I've noticed in the last last 2 years when I've started to work I've been working with clinical populations for a long time, people with mood disorders and things like that. But more recently, because I'm working in a corporate space, we're working with that as well, but we're also just working with people trying to pursue goals and career objectives. And what surprises me is people who are at very senior levels in companies don't know what their strengths and skills are at all. They discount, they might be vice president at Google, and they're really anxious and think they're no good. And they don't have a strengths CV. So they've discounted their knowledge, they've discounted skills, qualities, experiences. That stuff doesn't readily come to them.
Like imposter syndrome.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Big time. And I think we all do that.
Yeah, it's comforting that they get it then.
Yeah.
Sort of.
In fact, high-performance athletes are coached constantly by their coaches to recall their strengths, skills, qualities in a 5-to-1 ratio to everything that they do wrong. So when Rafael Nadal goes out there and he does something poor, he feels he's let himself down in some way, his coach will be training him, okay, what did you do well? And if you watch interviews of high-performance athletes, they respond in this way. They'll be asked in interviews, hey, how did you feel about losing this match in the first round? And they'll say, well, my movement wasn't great, but my forehand was great, my strength was great, my mindset was great, my conditioning was great, and I'm really excited about the next opportunity. So they actually have trained this 5-to-1 ratio. And it's like a strengths CV. Very good at automatically being able to recall knowledge, skills, achievements, qualities, abilities, things like that. So that is an overview, kind of a checklist of a lot of the different components to identify goals, be able to measure and pursue them, the kind of energy that is needed, and then the sort of the means, which is the weight of our section. They trick themselves into thinking it'll probably work if I try just one more time. They're not better, they're not more skilled, they're just slightly positively deluded. And up until actually, it's interesting. Optimism was seen as a psychiatric condition in the time of Freud and Jung, because they said, well, life is ultimately just bad and you all die. So optimism is a psychiatric kind of disorder. But it turns out that people who are optimistic are actually much, much more likely to succeed, much more likely to have positive health, much more likely to have positive relationships. Just across the board, people who either temperamentally optimistic or cultivate an optimistic perspective just do better on all measures across the board.
Because that does, I suppose, if it, like the thing in startup stuff and entrepreneur stuff, they put it down to often resilience, your ability for resilience. And I guess if you're optimistic, you can do that thing of I'll just try one more time.
Yeah.
Like that's sort of the same thing as resilience.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Being able to keep going.
Yeah. So I have an exercise called Learned Optimism. Martin Seligman, who is a very famous, world famous psychologist in the field, the inventor of positive psychology, has written a number of books about learned helplessness and optimism. And one of his big books is the idea of learned optimism. So I've taken his exercise on optimism and boiled it down to one A4 page. So I'm going to give you an optimism exercise, I'll give you a compassion letter, and I'm going to give you a gratitude exercise. Gratitude is really impressive in how it changes the brain. It's a bit like optimism, that by practicing gratitude regularly, not too regularly, but
this is one of my favorite things that I've learned from Aaron, is the not too regularly for gratitude.
Yeah.
Will you talk about that?
Yeah, so there's a very famous psychologist called Sonia Lutomirsky. All she studies is gratitude, basically, and positive psychology. And they've done all kinds of tests on the correct amount of gratitude to feel. And it turns out that the optimum amount of gratitude to practice is to recall 3 things that you're grateful for once a week. More often than that, and you start to make up stuff. I'm really grateful for my shoes. I'm really grateful for traffic lights. I'm really grateful. And it actually has a negative feedback, and you end up kind of realizing that there's nothing to be grateful for actually. So once a week, 3 things, but they should be things you genuinely have a feeling of gratitude for. More often than once a week, and it becomes meaningless and flat and hollow. If you wait longer than once a week, it just doesn't have that same effect size. But loads of people and loads of books say, write down 3 things you're grateful for every day.
The jar.
Yeah. And this actually has a real backfire effect. What they've done there is they've misunderstood 2 different studies and conjoined them together. So one study was from Martin Seligman called 3 Good Things, where you write down each day 3 things that were nice. But Mirsky's study was write down 3 things a week that you're grateful for. And so lots of books and journals and diaries that you will find, Hodges and Figs and Nieces, have just conflated those 2 things together without any, completely contrary to the science. So having a beauty list where you write down, I had a really nice coffee today, I saw someone who had a really nice smile, whatever it might be, that's really good for triggering positive hormones, much better than scrolling on your phone, by the way, to trigger the same positive hormones. But trying to write down every day 3 things you're grateful for you'll end up, I'm really grateful for doors.
But 3 things you just liked or admired is fine, is it?
Yeah, 3
Or
things
it's
that you
good?
just liked. That was a nice cake. It was it didn't
Sunny
rain.
day. Yeah.
Sunny day. That was a lovely smile. I liked, how I felt when I got out of bed. I liked that little exchange with somebody. So, beauty lists, you can do that every day. Things that you like, things that were nice. But gratitude lists, really more than once a week is going to be problematic. So I have gratitude exercise, compassion exercise, and an optimism exercise. I'm going to give them out to all of you. You can choose now which one of the 3 you want to practice and do for the next, say, 15 or 20 minutes. Makes sense?
But people can do the other ones just at home or in their
They
own
can do
time.
it at home, and they might find a different time of the week or month is the right time for them, but they might not come back to it. But
Ooh. Yeah, because that's the other cool thing, isn't it? Because it's like a monthly thing. You sort of have a whole month where you do anything from it.
Yeah.
Which I think is nice because,
this is the learned optimism exercise. If you could hand out one to everybody.
my other favourite thing I've learned from Aaron is that mindfulness isn't good for everyone.
Oh yes, that's true actually.
Mindfulness isn't good for everyone. There's people that it's detrimental to.
Yeah. So there are 3 groups of people who shouldn't really be practicing mindfulness. Any guesses?
Psychosis?
Well, you already know the answer.
Okay, I'm cheating. I'll stop.
Yeah, so if you think of what mindfulness is, actually not.
No?
Depressed people is really good for them.
Well, you buy sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Any other guesses?
Serial killers?
I will mindfully murder this person. Yeah, you wouldn't want to be in the moment for that.
That would be. I mean, I don't know how you'd run. I don't know how you'd run that study to find out. Yeah.
If you're a serial killer, please come forward.
Yes.
Participate in my
Yes.
story.
Yeah. As long as you haven't stopped serial killing. Yeah. So if you think of what mindfulness is, it's about stepping out of rules and routines and stepping into our direct experience in the moment. So there's 3 groups of people whose direct experience in the moment might be more distressing than helpful. So they're people who have a really badly managed substance abuse problem. People who are actively psychotic, where they cannot trust their direct experience. They have to go by rules. They have to say, okay, I might be thinking this, I might have these ideas, but I have to do this rule to be safe. So people with really bad substance abuse problems, poorly managed, people with active delusions and psychosis, and people who have recently received or have just received any kind of diagnosis of a terminal illness. There are 3 populations of people where mindfulness is going to have a real negative, most likely negative effect for them, because their direct experience is so unpleasant, it's so distressing. For the rest of us,
Interesting.
it's a good
I
idea.
thought it was interesting.
This is a self-compassion letter to yourself. Self-compassion, so we can have that as well. And this is the gratitude exercise. 3 good things. So you write down 3 things that you're grateful for that happened this week, and then you write a little bit about how they contribute to your life and explore the reason that this thing happened. So what I think you could do is spend maybe, each of these exercises should take between 10 and 20 minutes. So if you maybe just choose one that we can kind of take some time to explore now. So there's 2 ways you can use the optimism exercise. You can either look retrospectively at something that happened, look at what judgments and thoughts you had about it, what were the consequences of those judgments and thoughts. And then in the second half of this exercise, you're reorienting your perspective. And the whole idea is that we're cultivating a sense that problems are temporary, they're external, and they're not to do with me. And so this exercise goes through all of those in very micro kind of stages. What I wanted also to do just before we finish is to just have take a minute or 2 to identify where we want to be this time next month, with regards to whatever we're working on.
Thank you.
So to be able to identify something about where we want to be this time next month relative to our goal.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're very
It was
welcome.
great.
Thanks. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.